G'day, this is Captainoob, and this is an M2 shotgun, not to be confused with a Benelli M2. This is a completely different weapon, and I think it's a completely fictional and made-up weapon, because there's bits of this that look like a lever-action rifle, but then you've got a shotgun in here. And I know there's, like, lever-action shotguns that exist, but yeah, this thing looks more like old repeater rifles that the cowboys used to use. But anyways, what you're looking at here is a standalone shotgun custom animations. These sounds are that of the double barrel shotgun, and if you look directly down the barrel, you can see the shell there. So that's nice. You don't usually see that with vanilla guns. Don't do that in real life though, you'll blow your head off. There's also another variant over here, the 2BM, which has a magazine on the side for faster reloads, so, you know, a little bit of a ramshackle modification there. Looks pretty good. We'll be modifying these two, and we're going to shoot things. So first of all, we've got receivers. We'll crank that all the way up to hard, and that gives us 368 damage. Probably less during the day because I've got that book that gives me 5% more damage at night. But 368 for a shotgun is pretty good. You kind of want it to be high damage because of how the damage resistance system works, especially on very hard difficulty, where if it splits all that damage into the projectiles equally, a lot of your damage is going to get soaked up by your enemy's armor and damage reduction. So having that at a high number, almost 400, is pretty nice, I must say. Now for the barrels, generally you want to chuck on the longest one possible. You can have a shielded one, which will narrow the spread, and also that's for actually just the barrel. Never mind, the medium's barrel will narrow the spread as well, but that's helpful because you'll just get better range out of your shotgun if their spread's good. A little bit less, I suppose, penalizing on missed shots with the wider spreads, but generally for versatility, the lesser spread or the tighter spreads are nice. Also, you can have a recoil compensating stock, which puts this bizarre metal thing here. I guess that's some sort of weird shock absorber. The way it's opened there, I feel like you'd want to have like some panels or plates covering that, because like dirt and stuff is going to get in there and just gum up the whole weapon, at least the stock. So as cool as it looks, possibly impractical. I guess we're playing a video game, so we shouldn't have to worry about that. And the magazine just comes in the form of the tube. Obviously, as you reload this, the shotgun shells will be loaded into this tube before going into the chamber for firing. So the longer tubes means you can stack more of the shells in there. Nice. And you can also have a reflex sight or standard sights. That's the only sights here. Unfortunately, you can't put a scope on this thing in order to get the sniper knockdowns with it, so that'll be how it is with the reflex sight. You can also chuck a compensator or a muzzle brake. No suppressor option on this. I tend to not put any of these on because you're reducing the range of a weapon that doesn't need its range reduced at all, so you will leave this with no muzzle at all. There's a legendary effect if you need it, and oh, you can cover it. Okay, I would like to withdraw my criticism about not being able to cover that up. You can have that exposed if you want. Now, this is where it gets a little bit more interesting for all of the aesthetics things. You can have it Arctic white, and painted olive green, and standard in 4 different types of timbers. Wood furniture. It's nice. Let's go rosewood here, because my character's last name is Rose. See that in XCOM. So with this mag-fed one, it's basically the same thing. We'll go ahead and chuck on basically the same optimal attachments, and we've got a quick eject magazine and a medium version of that. It looks like there's no drum to have on the side in here, like an old Nerf gun that I used to own. It's probably down in the shed somewhere, but that's what it is. I'm going to leave the iron sights on this just so we can see what they're like. Muzzle will be left off as well. And we're going to have this without the cover on it. Not that you'll probably ever see it, but let's make this one white. White for, just so it looks distinctive, so I know which one I'm using. And you can't really tell which one there is. I wouldn't mind there to be like an ebony color paint for this. Just a nice dark wood there. But you know, we can't have a black and white shotgun. We'll just go for the walnut instead. And I think that's it. So the attachment on the mag was pretty much the same, except instead of the tube, you've got the magazine on the side. Now, I wonder if it's lighter. It is as well. That's actually kind of neat. It's a little bit of attention to detail there. So 368, and this is doing less for some reason. Probably because rate of fire and magazine? Not really sure why, but I don't mind having the extra power here. Let's compare this to a combat shotgun from the vanilla game, just for a second. Okay, so here's an advanced combat shotgun for reference, doing 262 damage. So we're going to have less rate of fire on these shotguns because they're pump action, but we'll have the power to make it a little bit more competitive in comparison to this thing, which will probably have slightly better DPS and a better mag capacity, but we'll have to see how we go. And whilst I've got you here, this thing is injected onto the leveled list using script, so you'll find it on enemies and in vendors just all around the Commonwealth. Pretty easy to find. Righto, so we're actually inside of Gunner's Plaza today, and this is the Mothman-Winchester M-2 Shotgun in first person. You'll note that the reflex sight on this, and I didn't mention this earlier, is that of the laser gun, and they've actually just changed the textures on it slightly so it matches the weapon more and doesn't feel too out of place as a result. Looks pretty cool. And the second one I made here with the magazine on the side and the lever action rifle looking sights here. It honestly looks like one of those Japanese submachine guns that you pick up from that Tomb Raider game from 2013, but just with a shorter mag. There's a lot going on here. It's just a little bit of everything. It's a shotgun, lever action rifle, and a submachine gun looking thing all at the same time. Anyways, we've spent enough time looking at them. Let's get to shooting things. And that's our first confirmed kill there. The sneak criticals may have flattered us in terms of the damage we're getting, but as you can tell, even with headshots, the time to kill here is going to be very long. It might take a full bloody magazine for these gunner brigadiers to go down, and good thing they're not shooting me because I'd be getting my ass handed to me right now if these guys were actually, you know, full autoing me with automatic rifles. But we're making it so far. There's the reload animation, by the way. It also happens to be a third-person reload as well. You'll always reload it that way, regardless of how many shells you've actually shot from the tube, so that's something. But it makes a little bit more sense when using the version with the magazine for its reload, which, nice dodge, I dare say is slightly faster. Wow, that teleporting crouch move got me twice, shame on me. But it just feels ever so slightly faster when using the magazine, and the reload speed is really good as well. You still need to pump it, of course, but for whatever reason, the DPS just seems to be so much higher. So perhaps if you're using this thing exclusively in VATS, what you could do is just use the pump action for that extra damage, and obviously the crits there would be pretty massive, which we might actually just get a little bit of gun fill action before we get into this fight proper. But yeah, that seems to be the better option to go. And with all of the range on this particular shotgun, you'll find that hitting targets is pretty good. We've got a 95 across the board for literally all of these targets, so that's great. And we've even got some extra AP left over, so that reflex sight paying dividends right now, I would say. And we don't have to worry about these shots here not being criticals, but now every shot is a crit after our third target, and almost kills the gunner commander in one shot. But now that's kind of it, and that guy is just sort of like power sliding running. I don't know exactly what his plan was, but he doesn't have a head anymore, so I guess it didn't work out for him. And right now, instead of like shooting at these guys multiple times, these guys have got automatic weapons, so probably going to take the lieutenant out and would have to work on getting that second health bar down from that lieutenant, which I'll switch over to the mag-fed one just for the extra damage. Hopefully we'll get a few staggers here. There's one, there's two, there we go. Kept her stun locked for just enough time for actually... hello. I'm surprised these gunners were so unaware of anything around them just then. But you'll notice on this thing, the spread on this thing, even at ranges, it's actually pretty decent. And the range itself means you can potentially use this a little bit effectively, even at ranges that are fairly medium, and you wouldn't be able to reach with your standard shotguns. A little bit flattering killing that basic gunner in one hit there. No use on sneaking, I guess. But we're still getting 40 damage for headshots all the way from back here. Granted, not all of our pellets are hitting, so we're not getting the maximum amount of damage, but if they're so inclined to stand completely still whilst I hit the same spot over and over again, I guess I won't say no to that. And the hip fire as well seems to be pretty accurate as well. It's got a decent choke on this thing, I'd say. Stop throwing those baseballs at me. Take that to Fenway Park. I want to go there. I want to go to Fenway Park one day. I reckon that'd be awesome. But anyways, I think that's it for these gunners, and we did pretty well there. Granted, not being able to one-shot that turret is cause for concern, but I think we're just fine. And we'll pop the safety on as we put it away. And of course, it is compatible with the classic holstered weapons mod, although it's a little bit low. Maybe that's because, I don't know. It's kind of interesting how it is there. Usually it's a little bit higher. The stock is sort of around the same height as your head, but a little bit lower, less profile, I guess. Wouldn't get caught on so many things walking past, but that was it against the gunners. I'm going to throw some legendary effects on this before we fight some monsters. Alright, so we're going to try to kill Swan and all of his mates with our newly augmented legendary shotguns. 3 guesses as to what this thing has as its legendary effect. That might be overemphasizing it a little bit, but as you can tell, it's explosive. There you go. So I've got 1 explosive shotgun because that's exactly what you want to do in Fallout 4, to be honest. And now Swan's coming at me. We've got some pretty good accuracy when it comes to using VATs. I'm going to just make the first ones a few criticals just so we get that extra hit that we might usually would miss if I had bad RNG, I suppose. And now, try not to shoot it that close to you because that would do damage to yourself. And don't forget to reload. There seems to be a bug in VATs with bolt action weapons, or rather weapons that you'll need to have a play an animation after shooting. Sometimes they forget to reload in VATs, so you have to wait a little bit. Remember that iconic video that said the title is "I Screamed the Whole Time"? The dude's shooting at Gunner's Plaza with his 44 Magnum, and as he's waiting for his character to reload in VATs, was a fat man nuke goes right past the dude's shoulder, right past his head, and yeah, that's that glitch in action there. And that's not one of the ones they fixed for Fallout 76 because, of course, VATs being real time in that game, you didn't have to worry about that so much anymore. Anyways, the second legendary effect I've got here is actually called Wounding. So every single projectile that I'm hitting out of that is giving me an extra 25 points of flat damage, and there's the reload bug once again. So 8 times 25, an extra 200 damage per shot. Now, obviously on a health bar that is around 30,000 or so, that's not going to be super pronounced, but if I manage to get a couple of good VATS rounds in here, that damage will come in very handy. Whether I want to waste criticals on it, I don't know, but you'll notice when I'm using this thing in VATS, as I'm keep getting pelted with rocks here, is that I'm actually firing so much faster if I use a VATS round on this as compared to when I'm not. And there's a rock, we'll make sure we sidestep out of that one. He seems to be stuck on that train carriage, which is good news for me. We'll go ahead and have another full VATS round here, because look at that. And remember, this is all in slow motion, so in real time, I'm firing this thing as fast as you'd fire like a 10mm pistol with a standard receiver, which is a lot of DPS. Especially when you consider I'm getting an extra 200 or so wounding damage out of it. And that was a nice little dodge there. And we seem to be kiting him pretty well through this train, but he's making his way around now, so I should probably move over a little bit. We'll switch back over to the explosive for now. Slightly less rate of fire here, and he's going for the blocking move for the head, but honestly, I've got criticals and I'm going to use them, so enjoy this very cinematic view of me shooting this guy in the head over and over and over and over. Tell you what, in terms of VATS camera and how they handled it in Fallout 4, back in Fallout New Vegas, you used to have a nothing face for everything, and we interrupt this one kill for killing something from, like, Resident Evil or something. At least your character, like, has facial expressions when using that. So look of determination, you know? Instead of the nothing face, 6 headshots in a row type New Vegas stuff that you'd get. So, that's good. Unfortunately, we're not going to see a system like this remade. And that's not a shotgun pellet. Get out of here. Also, 69 damage I killed him on. And a money shot to boot. And what have we got over here? Don't know, but they're dead now. Oh, it's more of these ant numberal hunters or something. Get out of here. Get. Alright. So, that's it for this weapon. And I noticed I've had the rusty face bug that whole time there. You don't really notice it when your character's skin is this dark, but now her face is back. There we go, looks fine. So that there was Winchester, Mothman-Winchester M-2 Shotgun. It's pretty good. Whether it's going to stay in my regular rotation, I don't think it will, because it just doesn't feel like it's not really strong enough to utilize as a daily weapon, just messing around with Fallout 4. There's a lot of other shotgun mods that just seem to do slightly better, but if you're looking for something that isn't like a real tactical gun that's potentially lore-friendly, if you just, you know, it's got Mothman in it, so maybe West Virginia. If you're into Fallout 76, you might be interested in this thing. Or if you're playing on a difficulty other than very hard, you'll probably have a better time with this weapon than I had. But I still recommend it anyway. It's a pretty well-made weapon mod. It's got some cool sounds, reload animations, and all. So, link in the description if you want it. Thank you very much for watching, guys.